when the stakes are so high, as big law firms, when you're talking about hundreds of thousands or millions of documents, obviously these are going to end up being very expensive cases. You're talking I at least millions of dollars, and there's probably very often in these kinds of litigation situations, tens, hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars on the line, one way or another, for the defendant or the plaintiff. Does that happen in litigation? Do you have a defendant and a plaintiff in
Yeah.
litigation? Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Um, and so in that kind of situation, the stakes are very high. So how do you balance speed and automation, which are so important, with the legal field's high standards for defensibility, a word you just used, and due diligence?
Those are great questions. So one of the fun things about working in the legal industry is that these standard evaluation metrics, we call them precision generally, sometimes get negotiated with opposing counsel or some governmental body. So it's a one time where your evaluation metrics and being rigorous in your evaluation processes, reasonably rigorous in your evaluation processes, really, really matter, right? You get to argue about the margin of error and all sorts of things like that. And you have to, as a data scientist, you do have to be able to explain what that really means and what the consequences of it might mean to attorneys and sometimes judges. But it is, every case is a little bit different. Um, Defensibility boils down to what that particular attorney is comfortable defending, and there are proportionality considerations and undue burden considerations that go into it. So for example, if you have a really, really low prevalence um, uh, relevance tag, right? If you're looking for a subset of the documents that's really rare, um, just sampling enough documents in order to be able to evaluate it could become overly burdensome potentially. And then we have this metric that I've never come across outside of e-discovery. We call it illusion, where we're just sampling the subset of documents predicted not relevant, and we have the human ground truth labels for all the relevant documents. So um, from those two metrics, we can then estimate an interval for recall. And that's an interesting case. And the defensibility around that is debated. I'm a proponent of it because we don't use any of these metrics to evaluate what we call linear review, which is just humans with eyes on everything. And if we're just going to assume that that is the gold standard, that all of those labels are in fact correct, which we kind of know they probably aren't, then why should we hold machine learning workflows to a higher standard, right? We should be able to accept that those labels are the gold standard. Um, so yeah, lots of interesting areas of debate, lots of different angles. And again, it just depends on the case and who's requesting what and how onerous it's going to be for the producing party to appease opposing. Um, and all of that goes into a defensible, quote unquote, defensible workflow.